Hi folks, welcome to Edge Parts and Performance Methanol Madness, and a special show tonight. It's our last episode for the season, and joining us is Louise Smith. Welcome aboard, Louise. Good to get that racing out in the weekend, and great to get into those social events as well.
Yeah, it was a really big weekend for Ruapuna, and it was cool to see the whole community rallying together to celebrate not only the Gold Cup weekend but the whole season.
Yeah, it was indeed. And AJ Batt, the voice of Ruapuna, joins us as usual. 2 days of commentating, mate. You must have been a bit knackered on Sunday.
Yeah, I was a bit battle weary, but I'm already looking forward to the next opening night.
Yeah, well, look, it's not that far away, just a number of months, and we'll get back into it. So if you're at the Racecourse Hotel and Motor Lodge on Thursday night, you would have seen we had the front end challenge. AJ, you were calling this. We got a north-south challenge going. Tell us how it all played out.
Well, we had Team Jamie McDonald up against the Team Jamie Duff, and the Duffs, they would have been disappointed with their showing at the previous front end challenge, but boy, they had it sussed this time round, and they just wiped the McDonalds off the plate. Yeah,
and in actual fact, they set an unofficial record. We're just going by our timekeeper, Mike Glover. 1 minute 52 is the big time to beat. Remember, in the early days, it was about 3.5 minutes, so these boys seem to be getting all sorted out.
Yeah, I think they're a little more serious about it too. There's some bragging rights, and the guys generally get on pretty well. So, it's always nice to have one up on your opponents, regardless of what it is.
Well, that's exactly right. And Louise, good to see the social side developing quietly. We had lots of drivers and supporters at the Racecourse Hotel and Motor Lodge. You caught up with a few of them. Good to see all our regular drivers actually participating these days.
Yeah, it was really cool to see everyone kind of gathering together before such a big weekend. It really goes to show just how important the social side of it is as well.
And a big thanks to Steve Duff from Concut for organising and putting the $500. It was pretty interesting. Jamie got the $500 off his old man, but I'm sure it was well spent in the bar later on. Okay, time to move on to Crash of the Week, brought to us by KH Fabrication. If you break it, he'll fix it. And this comes from the Sprint Car Salute to Goody feature race. And AJ, they were going pretty quick in this feature race, but there was a whole lot of drama that started in the back there.
Yeah, a whole lot of traffic too, a fierce pace, and you can just see coming out of the town bend, there's contact between Matt Honeywell and Oscar Harcourt. Oscar's in the red car on the inside. Matt swerves off it, and then the car appears to get a whole lot of right rear drive, and he cuts back across the track, and she's all over Red Rover from that point on.
Yeah, it's such a desperate time for these sprint car drivers because they all know that they've got to make all their passes in the early laps. And Matt, as you say, Matt did get into Oscar a little bit coming off that corner. And that car got all sideways, and with 900 horsepower underneath, it's very hard to control these cars. Get a closer look here. There's the wee incident just in the corner. Oscar recovers quite nicely. Out to the wall, trying to overcorrect. Holy heck, there's Oscar there again. And looked like Caleb Bourne gave him a wee tag there, which just accelerated that car into a big tumble, and bits flying everywhere. And that car looked absolutely destroyed. Louise, we get a wee clip of Matt getting out of the car here. Got a sore neck, but what do you make of that?
Yeah, it was definitely one of the biggest crashes that we've seen in a while, so it was really cool to see Matt kind of get out of that okay and make it back out to the meeting for the next day as well.
Yeah, that was so hard to believe. He got it was either a brand new car, it can't have been that old car, surely not, but they certainly did a lot of hours and managed to get that car racing the next day. A great effort by the Flying Farmer, AJ.
Yeah, and they're a great team too. They're seasoned, they know what they're doing, and Matt did say that the frame actually wasn't that bad from that crash for the Saturday night, but he wouldn't go telling us exactly what they'd had to do. But yeah, there was a pretty big bill, I'd say, to pay after that one.
Yeah, frightening moment, but good to see the Flying Farmer back for the Sprint Car Gold Cup. Time to move on to the Pro Ben review of the night, and the first class we'll look at AJ, the modified sprints. Some good results there, good, fast, hard racing.
Yeah, and how good has Harry McIntyre been at the tail end of the season? He was trying so hard in the earlier parts of it and sort of had to bow down behind some of the more seasoned campaignliers, but he's really impressed the heck out of a lot of people as the season's gone on. Absolutely.
Brett Booth taking second, Liam Astle for third. Liam Astle taking out the best lap time there, 14.74. So a wee way off their lap record, but Liam Astle taking out the fastest lap. Well, the next class we'll look at is the TQs, and Louise, you follow these guys pretty closely. Some good results again.
Yeah, it was another really good night for the class. So Tyler Warnock winning the feature, another well-deserved win for him. He's had a lot of bad luck this season, as we all know, but another very impressive result there for Kimberly Yeatman as well, finishing in second, and then the very fast Aaron Finlay in third.
Yeah, it was very impressive for Tyler. He's been one of the most consistent TQ drivers all year, and good to see him getting those results towards the end of the season. We all like the dirt flirt. Kimberly, she's a great racer. AJ, been around for a number of years, and good to see her podium.
It'd be like a big win for her, wouldn't it? And one of the things I really like about Kimberly, she's so passionate about the game. She will do anything to go racing and away from the track, to help fund it. There's sales of Christmas lilies and lamingtons and all sorts of stuff. She will do anything. That's a racer to me. And so I was just so rapt for her on Friday night. I thought that was just a great result.
Well, Aaron Finlay taking third. He's done particularly well, just his second year in TQ racing. I'll tell you what, the Rookie of the Year is going to be interesting. We've got Blake Finlay, who's been going very well, and Ethan Smith, Louise's brother, winning his first feature. I mean, there's a bit of competition there for Rookie of the Year. What do you think?
It's definitely going to be interesting. There's been a lot of rookies come into the TQ class, and it's cool to see so many of them do so well straight away, which is really what the class is all about.
Absolutely, and Ben Morgan getting the fastest lap time there, 15.61 seconds, a good result despite not being on the podium. Well, the V6 wingless sprints had their Ruapuna rumble over 2 nights, and we had some good results here. AJ, how did you see it all play out?
I was really impressed with the Southern Brigade. A bit of a shame that the first night that Luke McClymont had such a difficulty, some mechanical issues that just sort of held him back. But those kids from down south are good, and then we had some really good performances from our locals. Andrew Barker, Kirk Hawkins, I thought was outstanding on Friday night. Pity we didn't see him racing on Saturday night, but old Shooter, that there's plenty of bark left in that old dog.
And he really did show a bit of steel. The official results there, it was Luke Shearing winning 2 heats, Laurie Peterson from Auckland taking out a heat, and Kirk Hawkins as well as Blair Smith taking out some heat races. Remember, they just ran their series over, I think it was 6 heats, and did an accumulation of points. Fastest lap of the night was Shooter Hawkins, 15.99. We all thought they might get close to that lap record of 15.85. But it wasn't to be. All right, time to move on to the sprint cars, and what a race it was on Friday night. It was a sprint car salute to Goody, and AJ, this was an exceptional meeting, wasn't it?
Yeah, the pace was a scorcher, and how good is it when we also get the drivers from around the South Island rather than just having a game of chicken and getting out of it. That they want to be part of the fun. It's part of the learning curve, and there's only one way that you're really going to learn. That's getting the laps up against some very good quality competitors.
Yeah, and the official result was Jonathan Allard took out the feature race. He was so dominant, probably lapping quicker than anybody else by about half a second. Max Guilford taking out second, so the North Islanders had it over the locals. And Jamie Duff, our local track favourite, taking out third. So certainly the lap times were good. Jonathan Allard got a 12.79 second lap at Ruapuna, which is a staggering time. And Joel Myers Jr., we expected good things out of him, a 12.80. Well, look, joining us on the show, folks, is Jonathan Allard, and welcome to the show, Jonathan. It's your second time here on Methanol Madness. A bittersweet weekend for you, but let's just focus on Friday night. You were driving like a man possessed.
Yeah, we have a great car. It just goes to show when things are lined up like they are, and all the effort we put in, all the hours we put into the car, and getting that thing just dead on, it makes our job a lot easier at the racetrack. And that thing really performed this weekend. We had a new motor under the hood, and that thing was a ripper. So it was great to be down there and ripping those laps around, and it went really well on Friday.
There's a real contrast to your New Zealand sprint car title deal. That was so disappointing. For those that don't know, Jonathan blew his motor up about 10 laps into the feature, and he looked like he was going to be unbeatable. But certainly the lap times were so impressive. Did you feel like you were breaking that 13-second barrier in the weekend?
Well, I didn't really know. The car, like I said, it just a lot of things that we do in the race shop has paid off on the racetrack, and that thing goes around really nice and smooth, and there's a lot of effort to make sure the thing's stable and cuts the corner like it's supposed to, and does all the things right. So it definitely was ripping around there. I knew we were at good pace, but you really don't know the fine line or the fine tuning of where you're at with lap times. So we're just trying to make sure that thing gets around there, and we keep our nose clean and try to do the best we can with what we got in store, with the race car. And I think we did that. We put all the pieces of the puzzle together and just tried to keep clean through the heats and got ready for the main event. And that thing really performed in the main, and it's a tribute to what the Dalton's guys put underneath me.
Well, AJ and I were watching that Dalton's car going around, and nothing better than that outside pass you put on Jamie McDonald in one of the heat races. Man, oh man, you absolutely kept your foot up as late as you could going into that corner. And I think you went past him so quickly, I think you almost took the ear off his wing and he started to go around a wee bit. Can you remember that moment?
Yeah, definitely. It's just confidence in the car and getting settled in that thing. Like I say, keep going on about the Daltons, but they've really allowed me to become comfortable to whatever happens in a race. There's so many things that can happen. So to allow myself to make mistakes or recover from those mistakes, they really just have allowed me to become what I need to be on the racetrack and really focus on winning each race and putting the effort in. So the confidence in the car is there, and to be able to run in that corner that hard, it just shows you what confidence I have in that car.
Yeah, good stuff. Jonathan, I might get you to stay online for a bit. We might talk to you about the Sprint Car Gold Cup, and we did talk about a bittersweet ending to your weekend, but we'll cover that when we cover the review coming up very shortly. Great to get Jonathan Allard on the show, and he's still got plenty to offer these Sprint Car guys, hasn't he?
Oh, you bet he has, and it's that the seasoned pro that everything that Jonathan does, it raises the standard down here. And he's such a great ambassador to it. Everyone loves Jonathan Allard. The kids, they are able to go and approach him. They get the autographs, the photos, and all of that. And Jonathan, he passes on really good information to everyone, whether you be a track announcer or a track curator or an official or another driver. He wants to help because he can actually see what we're trying to do down here.
Well, look, folks, time to take a break now, and after the break, we'll do a review of the Sprint Car Gold Cup.
Triple X chassis are now in stock at Edge Parts and Performance. These outstanding sprint car chassis are winners with the World of Outlaws, proven in Pennsylvania, and raced on the bull rings of New Zealand. Edge Parts and Performance, proud stockists of racer-inspired, race-proven Triple X chassis and race components. The team at Edge Parts and Performance have got safety covered. They're proud stockists of Simpson safety products, helmets, head and neck restraints, harnesses, racing suits, gloves, shoes and more. Simpson safety products provide an unparalleled level of comfort, performance and protection. Come and check out their new range of Simpson suits, lightweight 2-layer SFI approved suits that offers flexibility and functionality all in one. They've also got the Red Devil carbon fibre lightweight racing helmet in stock.
Well, Edge Parts and Performance have been a great sponsor to the show, and good to see that they're still as busy as ever, with the season still continuing a little bit. Time to move on to the Pro Ben review of the night. It's now the Sprint Car Gold Cup, which was Saturday night. What a great way it was to start the show, Louise, with the parade of drivers and that Anzac commemoration. It really set up for a great atmosphere, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And involving the crowd like that is so important. As AJ just mentioned, people like Jonathan Allard are so interactive with the fans. It's so important for them to kind of get to see their faces as they walk alongside the cars. It's really important for the sport.
Yeah, what do you make of that, AJ? Many years ago, we found it pretty difficult to get drivers to do that sort of stuff, but it's really become something at Ruapuna these days.
It has, and it used to be really hard to get drivers to say anything. But I think now, it's part of the social media fabric of life, isn't it? Everyone has found they've got a voice, and you see so much more racing. And it sort of used to be the NASCAR and IndyCar guys that would get on the screen and they'd answer, very, very well. And so on. But the Speedway world is finally caught up, and right through from the quarter midgets right up to the top, everyone's able to sort of talk in a way that people understand, and they engage themselves with the fans.
Yeah, it was a great atmosphere, and for those that were sitting on the bank, we also had the American car display, a American muscle car display was going around the infield. It really made for a great atmosphere, and certainly started off the event in the way that it should be. Time to move on to the Pro Ben review of the night, and the first class we'll look at, Louise, is the quarter midgets. It looked like Jack Brownlee's had another dominant night.
Yeah, he did. He did go 3 for 3 again, winning both his heat races and the feature as well. And then second in the feature went to Malachi Webb. And I think that most notable was Isabel Clark finishing in third. It was actually her last meeting in a quarter midget at Ruapuna Speedway. So a bit bittersweet for her, but cool to still landed on the podium.
Yeah, a few retirements in the quarter midgets. I think DJ Shilton is also retiring now. Brooke, does she have another year in
Yeah,
racing?
there's one more season left for Brooke. So we're just losing Isabel and DJ this year.
Yeah, it's been a great early career for both of those drivers, and especially DJ Shilton turned into a good young man these days, and we hope that he continues with Speedway racing in the future. And of course, Isabel Clark, not sure where she'll end up, possibly TQs, but she'll have to stand down for a year. Or what do? They race out at Ellesmere, don't they, under the CTRA tracks, but we'll see how that all plays out. Best lap time of the night was Jack Brownlee's, a very fast 18.28 seconds. Remember, anything under 19 seconds for a quarter midget is absolutely flying. We don't often get them that low, 19.5, 19.6, somewhere around there, but good on you, Jack. You're really going well in that car. Well, the next class we'll look at is the modified sprints we'll look at. Louise, what do you make of this? Looked like Craig Cox took out another feature.
Yeah, he sure did. It was actually a very interesting race, especially watching from the infield. I like the perspective that it gives, but yeah, definitely Craig Cox has been the one to beat all season.
Official result, Craig Cox, Liam Astle and Harry McIntyre, just a reorder of those drivers from a few weeks ago. Craig Cox taking out the fastest lap, 14.69, but a pretty interesting feature race. He had no setup in that car. Remember, the car was sledging out, but he drove around it and he still set the lap record.
Yeah, I was just waiting for someone to see the gap, because every lap there was a gap. but he was pretty cunning about it, because he drove on a part of the racetrack that was going to make it really difficult regardless. But towards the end of the race, that gap was getting like Mack truck size. No one was able to sort of capitalise on it.
Exactly right. The next class we'll look at is the midgets, and the midget feature was taken out by Jeremy Webb, second to Glenn Jury and Mitchell Hill. Mitchell had a very good weekend at the Racecourse Hotel and Motor Lodge, Ruapuna Speedway. Almost won a heat race, but eventually got taken over by Tom Lumsden. But some really fast laps by Mitchell Hill.
Yeah, Mitch is another one that when he gets his opportunities, he's very fast. And you know, it's so good that these guys get that confidence boost. They know they can do it, or at least they think they can do it. Then they show that they can do it. And so I was really chuffed for him. And I was also really wrecked for Glenn Jury as well, because, you know, Glenn just week after week after week goes out there in that Access Man car and does the business.
Controversial win with Jeremy Webb taking out the feature. He put a last-minute manoeuvre on Glenn Jury. Difficult to know how this one played out, but certainly he was on the pole line, pushed Glenn Jury over. But the Speedway NZ officials did look at that and didn't put a penalty in. But good to see Glenn Jury going as well as he did. It was a really special moment for the Access Man midget car. Well, the next class we'll look at is the V6 wingless sprints, and remember, they were racing over 2 nights, and we had heat winners Mark Morris, Harrison Brown, Luke Shearing, and Luke McClymont got his car back in order and took out 2 heats on the second night.
Yeah, it was just a matter of Luke McClymont getting that car sorted, because he is so darn good in those 6-shooters, wingless sprints, call them what you like. He is just such a great driver, and he drives the lines that show that someone knows that these are a momentum class, and he does not want to scrub anything off it. Very talented driver.
Yeah, there's a lot of support behind Luke McClymont. We've got the CB Caravan guys really talking him up like he's going to be a good sprint car prospect, and certainly they're supporting him over the next few years, and it'll be good to see how he plays out. Well, the official results of the Rumble, it was Luke Shearing that took out the points, 114 points. Luke McClymont, after that dismal start on Friday, managed to get to 108 points, and Andrew Marker tied on 108, but lost it on a tie because of a slower lap time. But good to see Andrew Marker up there. We know he's one of the fastest guys down here.
He's been priming himself all season long for that Rumble, and being tied on points, he did say he wanted to gauge himself against Luke McClymont. We don't have an answer because they're still tied.
Well, time to turn our attention to the Sprint Car Gold Cup on Saturday night, and another great night's racing, AJ. There was action all over the show, plenty of crashes, and a very good final to boot.
Yeah, the Gold Cup is sort of growing in stature, and when you've got an event that's got some history behind it and some money and so on, guys will pull out that string just that little bit harder, and I think it showed, that there was a lot of desire out there, and a lot of guys that wanted to finish the season on a really good note.
Yeah, it was a lot of drama playing out. The race really failed to get started, multiple restarts and crashes going on, but it was eventually Stephen Taylor that took out the win, followed by Connor Rangi, who made his way through the field quite nicely, and Jamie Duff. A good consistent weekend for those two drivers. Joining us on the show is Stephen Taylor, and Stephen, what a stellar weekend that was for you, mate, and I bet you were pleased to get the Niche 9N car home for your first win of the Sprint Car Gold Cup.
Yeah, it ended up good. We kind of had to work at it through the course of the weekend with a motor change after the first night and kind of rebalance the car some, so I figured if we could be in the top 6 we could kind of try and move forward, so we kind of crept up on it as the weekend come on, I guess.
Yeah, well, as you said, the Friday night was very difficult with an underpowered motor, let's say, and I think it was Kevin Freeman that helped you out. He brought a motor down from Nelson and you boys installed it the next day, and it's tricky to do that, isn't it? You never quite know how everything's going to work out, but that car looked like it was absolutely on rails, especially around pole shuffle time. You must have felt a lot of confidence going through there.
Yeah, I suppose the pole shuffle end of the night, we got some momentum going, and we had a few things that we had to work on during the heats, and we made a couple, joint decisions on what we would do with the car, me and Landy, and with the pole shuffle it was good. It had a good balance, and I seemed to be able to get the drop on the start. So, starting off the front row in any major race is a major bonus, and that was my goal going out there. I think I was 4th on points at that stage.
Yeah, you certainly earned your way up to your grid draw for sure, but certainly the racing was pretty torrid all weekend. There was all sorts of drama going on around you, mate. There was crashes left, right and centre. And take us through the car. Did it come on stronger and stronger through the night? Were you working on the setups, or did it just click from day one?
We got better, really. We kind of changed a bit for the second night, and then we had to make a few small adjustments, but I suppose the biggest part where I kind of suffered was the beginning of the main event with a big fuel load and enjoying too much food and too much of a good time. The cars can be a bit wild to handle, so once it got to the last few laps, it was really good, but before that she's a bit wallowy, so yeah, it's all part of being a bigger guy, I guess.
Well, there's no surprise with you on that car, mate. You seem to enjoy driving it like that. It's a real show for the crowd as well. Listen, mate, it's been a hell of a long season for you, and do you have any more racing left, or do you get to put your feet up for a bit and just enjoy the moment?
We've got one meeting left. If it's goes ahead with this weather, it's the 29th at Bay Park. That's what we've committed to do, so hope we make the cut for that. And then, basically take the off season as it comes, try to get back over to the States and crew and help and build relationships to try and mount a campaign at some point in the future. And it's just really good to get a nice result for Landy and the team, Steve Sullivan also, our partners. It seemed like a season where we could be in place a lot of the time, and things were just kind of going awry, so.
Well, I've got to say, from Ruapuna's perspective, you've been an absolute showman for the last few seasons down here, and we're really pleased to see you get that result. Well deserved, mate, and you're the closest thing that we have to a professional driver. You're driving in both islands, the north and south, so I don't imagine you get much time to yourself for socialising or even being with your friends, but it's a heck of a life, the sprint car racing, isn't it? And you said just briefly you might be considering doing something in overseas, is that right?
I'm trying. I don't know where it's going to lead, but I'm trying.
Good stuff. Well, listen, we've still got Jonathan Allard on the line, and we might just bring Jonathan up now. Jonathan, you had a torrid time in the weekend, and tell us about what happened for you, because you were leading that feature race for a long time. How did it all play out?
Unfortunately, we just had a parts failure, and sometimes that happens. We check these things over pretty good, but sometimes you just have things happen that you can't control, and unfortunately, we had a brake line get split open, or caliper on the brake system, and I knew the brakes were fading, so I changed my line on one of the restarts and tried to go to the inside on the restart, because I knew Stephen was at pace, and he was doing a great job, and I know he would race me cleanly and do all that stuff, and he was going to be there, but I thought if I could get a good start, I could kind of roll in the center of the track, and I made a few hiccups, but we seemed to put some distance on some of the guys, but unfortunately, poor Gene Spooner, I shot to the bottom and went to push the brake pedal, and there was nothing there when he was sideways, and I cleaned him up pretty good. And then I thought I'd probably call it a night because I didn't want to endanger anybody else's race, and just for my selfish reasons. It would have been great to win another Gold Cup, and we had the car to do it. Unfortunately, we had a parts failure, but that's why they call it racing, not winning. And I want to congratulate Stephen. He's done a great job for the last couple of years. He's treated Landy really well with that team, and Landy's done a great job for him in the niche car. And it was great to see them win. They put a lot of effort into it, and it's well deserved. But it's just a tribute to the racetrack. I mean, the Jimmets have. I'll tell you what, that whole track team has done such a fabulous job. You can race on the racetrack, and from the first heat to the main event, there was passing everywhere. There was 2 grooves. They've done a lot of work on the racetrack, and it shows. And it shows what a good racetrack does for a facility, because everybody's involved and wants to come down and put on a great show. And it's so spectacular to be able to be a part of it. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we're really pleased to have Chris and Kane preparing the track for us. There's a hell of a lot of work that goes in. We hear this all the time with Speedway tracks, but it's exactly right. Yeah, it's days and days getting tracks prepared and having the knowledge and making the right decisions all the time. Well, look, I just wanted to say to you, Jonathan, it was a real shame for you going out. The crowd was really on your side, mate, and they couldn't quite understand what happened, because we all thought you were going to get a restart for sure, but we understand why you wouldn't want to restart without any brakes. It's an absolutely frightening moment, isn't it? And it jumps up on you so damn quickly, and like you say, poor Gene Spooner just got the nose of your car inside, and luckily it didn't cause too much damage, but it must have brought back memories of that New Zealand title for you, did you? I can't imagine what you were saying to yourself in the cockpit at the time.
Well, I couldn't really believe it. I mean, like I say, we ran probably 10 or 15 laps without any brakes, without any danger of endangering somebody else's race. So I just tried to keep clean, and we couldn't really pinpoint the car where it needed to be. So I kind of just floated through the middle, and it probably looked pretty erratic from the outside, but I felt pretty comfortable with where we were at. But once you get in the back and you have an issue like that, it's just better to pull out. It is reminiscent of the champs, but that's part of racing, and fortunately I'll get to come back and do it again. Like I say, I've got plenty of support from and the whole team. It just shows you we have a great car, and it's pretty disappointing when you have a parts failure leading, but that's part of the business.
I'm going to put you on the spot here, mate, and just ask you something about Stephen Taylor. Do you think he'd go okay in America? What's his style of racing? Would it suit over there?
Well, he would go okay. He has gone okay in the past. He's always been over there working. He knows a lot of people. He's got a big network over there. He's done the job, the groundwork, let's say, by just putting the effort out there, going over there on his own dime, working for free. He knows a lot of people, and he's gotten a couple opportunities, and he's done well with those opportunities. But it'd be nice to see somebody give him a chance, hopefully in California, because he has the ability to do it. He definitely has the attitude. We all know Stephen's attitude, and we enjoy it. Some of us do. I enjoy it, but I think he'd fit in well in California, and hopefully he gets that opportunity, because the more guys like Jamie Duff has had in the past, the more guys we can get from over here over to there and show what kind of talent they have. I think it'll better the sport.
Yeah, exactly right. Hey, thanks for joining the show there, Jonathan. Good to get your insights, mate, and we'll just let you get by. But Jonathan Allard, he's a pretty wise fella, isn't he? He seems to know what's going on everywhere, got good information, and generally wants to help people out.
Yeah, he does, and I actually back him up on his comment about Stephen going to California. Like, I'm a really big advocate of racing in California. I've been up there a bunch of times, and I think the tracks lend themselves more to the Kiwis being sort of like that quarter mile size or a small third. There's none of those great big half mile deals where you're doing 130, 140 mile an hour, which looks awfully good, but I sometimes wonder what sort of benefit that has for a New Zealand racer. Get to Northern California, they can do a bunch of races on something that isn't that far removed from what they're used to. And there's a number of Kiwi guys that would go pretty good up there. And Stephen Taylor, he's the sort of guy, he'll get the elbows up into the hustle and bustle, because that's what it's like.
We might just have a last moment with Stephen. Stephen, if you're still there, mate, plenty to look forward to for your racing career. How old are you, mate, and how many years have you been running now?
I've been in sprint cars 10 or 11 years, and I'm actually 27 on Saturday the 22nd, so I'm nearing 30. I'm not excited about it, but I've got to have a great time. So, yeah.
Well, listen, mate, Jonathan Allard is suggesting you'd probably go well in America. And I know you've already had plenty of experience over there. Let's hope that you can get something put together so you can go and race over there, mate. Hey, look, Stephen, thanks again for coming down to Ruapuna as often as you have, mate. I know you're based in Wellington, you're flying everywhere, but you've become a real favourite at the track, as many drivers have. And great to see you get that good result. How did Landy take it, mate? I'm sure he would have been pretty pleased about it on Saturday night.
Yeah, it was happy. There's a few hugs in the pits afterwards, and it's just a general feel-good story sort of thing. You know, obviously with Jonathan dropping out, you don't really want to win it that way, but it rewards them for the effort, because it's a thankless sport, really. Unless you're on the podium, it's really thankless and it can be tough. It's not just about being a driver, it's not just about being a car owner, it's the whole team. So yeah, it's just special to get it for everybody, and for him it's neat. You know, he's got a big win in Christchurch, and we probably could have had a few more wins, but I suppose over time they can come more so, and yeah, I think he's just really happy and content with that result.
Thanks again, Stephen, for joining the show, mate. A great result for you, and we hope you go well if you manage to get yourself overseas. Well, folks, if you're at the Front End Challenge the other night, you would have heard us announce that there's a $30,000 sprint car race coming to Ruapuna Speedway next year. Well, we're still in negotiations with that. We're pretty sure it's going to happen, but we just can't announce it until we get that wet signature on the contract. But AJ, plenty of activity at the Racecourse Hotel and Motor Lodge Ruapuna Speedway this season, and they're looking to do a lot more next season as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are seeing the value in what Ruapuna is bringing to the entertainment table now. Going to the Speedway ain't just going to the Speedway anymore. Going to the Speedway is about a night's entertainment. It's about having fun. And Jonathan Allard the other night, you know, he praised the fans for going out there and spending their hard-earned money.
Yep.
And the minute that you lose touch with the spectators, you know, economically we've probably got a couple of speed bumps in front of us, so it's going to be really important that people see that a night at the Speedway is more than just cars going round and round in circles. Do that, you've lost the game.
Yeah, I think you're right, AJ. For me, it's about the show also. Louise, as a younger person, what do you think makes Speedway so exciting these days?
I think it's just the general well-roundedness of everything you can get out of the sport. You know, it's the adrenaline rush from the actual racing itself, as well as the fact that you can bring the whole family along. You can do all these things as a family. There's so much to do and so much to see, whether it's before the big meetings like the Front End Challenge, just as a social gathering, or at the actual track itself before the meetings, catching up with people that you sit with every weekend. I think it's just very important as a whole to kind of keep that fan engagement up.
I think you're right, and I've noticed in the pits, certainly after the races, with the encouragement of AJ through the commentary system, we get a lot of people going back, don't we, and getting their signatures, shaking hands with their favourite drivers. Geez, I think Jamie Duff even lets people sit in his car. So it's very, very rare to get that sort of closeness with any sporting figures. Imagine trying to do that with the Crusaders, or I don't know, any other sport that you can imagine. It certainly wouldn't happen. The other thing that possibly is happening next year is a couple of Americans might be coming down, AJ. We're just in talks again about getting our own Americans down. Joel Myers Jr. has proved to be very successful, and Buddy Coford was incredible. And we probably can't rely on people like Daniel Anderson bringing them down all the time.
No, what I think has happened, particularly it started off with the Buddy Coford thing, like historically, Western Springs has been a speedway destination for midget car races since like 1937. Everyone in the States that races midget cars at a high level knows all about Western Springs. And I think what has really helped Ruapuna is the Buddy Coford exposure. He went back there and he talked well about the place. Young Joel Myers Jr., we only need to look at the streaming audiences, and we know where they're watching from. There's a guy that tunes in every sprint car show from Alaska. For God's sake, Alaska. But he makes these comments. He loves watching the racing at Ruapuna, and I think there is now an awareness that we're not playing tiddlywinks down here. We're not at the big level, and for a driver, if they go over to Australia and want to race over there, there's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 World of Outlaw drivers there, and for a younger driver, it's not going to do a hell of a lot to elevate their career. Come to New Zealand, where things maybe not quite at that standard, they become something, they become someone, and they get built up. And I bet you there's a lot of Kiwis, or particularly from the South Island, that are really tuned into Joel Myers' actions this year. We'll watch Buddy Kofoid and we point at the TV and say, we've seen him race. And Joel Myers is another one. It builds that. Likewise, the people up there that start talking about New Zealand.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And that streaming numbers with all those Californians tuning in, and the guys at RJP TV do a great job there. And we get to see how many people are tuning in, and that audience is growing and growing and growing. So I think it would be a good consideration for the marketing team next year to consider bringing some of these Americans down. And imagine someone like Tanner Holmes. Now, probably not the best driver. I think he's competed in a few World of Outlaw events, but he comes with a 60,000 person following on his YouTube channel. So all of a sudden you've got that that social media aspect, which is proving to be so crucial these days.
It's free advertising.
Exactly.
That's the thing, when these guys do the streaming, they are almost selling your show for you.
Yeah.
And Louise, being a little bit younger than me, they're more tuned into the strength of streaming. So when you get a driver that starts talking about it, and when they've got an audience of, say, 60,000 people that are watching, if you get 1% of them, you've got a lot of people that want to come here, and, they're going to be flying direct from San Fran to Christchurch by the time our Speedway comes around.
Yeah.
How good is that?
Possible drivers that could come down, who would you be talking about? I think Tanner Holmes could be a great person to come down to Ruapuna, maybe for 3 or 4 meetings or something, and see if he can bring his audience with him.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think something with a big following is something that would be really important. Just to bring that American audience with them is really important. But obviously we've seen plenty of Americans over the time. We've seen Tyler Courtney, Buddy Kofoid, Spencer Baston even, or any of those guys have got such a large following now because they're so good. So I think that any of them would be just as important.
Yeah, you're right. Rico Abreu, Kyle Larson, just to mention a few others, and we all know that name, and when we watch it on TV, they're not strangers to us anymore. Okay, folks, time to move on to our next event, and of course it's no racing at Ruapuna anymore. That's our season done and dusted. All we have left is the awards night on the 20th of May, and it's a night to celebrate drivers, staff and volunteers and all the achievements that have happened down at Ruapuna Speedway. If you want to get be part of that, get your tickets online at ruapunaspeedway.co.nz. It is open to the public, so we'd love to see plenty of you there to enjoy the celebrations. And just a quick thank you to AJ Batt, Louise Smith, Michael Ransby for helping out with the running of Methanol Madness, Edge Parts and Performance, Brett, Jenny, Andrew and Jason Scott for supporting the show so well, Rob from RJP TV for supplying all the great footage, and Kieran Harris from KH Fabrication, and John Seabright from ProBen for sponsoring the show. It's been a heck of a run. Till next time, folks, keep your foot up it.